Hang on a second. Welcome to the Mystic. Welcome to the Holy Rollers Mystic Podcast. This is Pastor Sidney and Brother Anthony are here to discuss an ongoing discussion of the Gospel of Thomas. We're aiming to discuss sayings 71 through 80. How you doing, Brother Anthony?
I'm doing awesome.
Excellent. Good to hear. Good to hear. I'm just going to dive right in. Saying 71, Jesus said, I will...
No diving. Diving's for pools. No,
well, on the deep end, we'll swim or whatever. So, okay, here we go. 71, saying 71, Jesus said, I will destroy this house and no one will be able to build it.
That's your temple. That's you.
Right.
That's your body.
Right.
He's talking about build up your defenses so nobody can come into your house and destroy it.
I think it's interesting that
spiritually.
I think it's interesting that it kind of talks both ways. He was famously said that he was going to tear the temple down in 3 days and build it again. And so, people made fun of him at the time. Of course, you're latching on to the right idea of it, which is the temple is us. We are what is built. But also there is the fact that 30 years after his death, the second temple was destroyed in the Roman war against the people from about 66 BC to 70 BC. 70 CE is when it was destroyed, and people were scattered around for thousands of years. So it's both at once.
Well, there's a little more depth to it, but
sure.
Like Gnostics believe, the divine spark, God, we are the temple. So let God step into his temple, basically.
Definitely.
It's my point of view towards it. Instead of looking in other directions, you should be focused on yourself and ascending and allowing yourself to take that step and defend your house spiritually. I'm looking at it from spiritual. You look at it from a physical point of view. That's why we work very well together.
Absolutely, friend. I see what you're saying too, and obviously that's the important thing. One of the nice things about this gospel in general, and Gnosticism in general, is that there's double meanings to everything, or triple meanings to everything. So you can see something as a physical place or as a spiritual place.
You can see it. See, the thing I love about Gnosticism, you can see it this year as, let's say, a spiritual thing. And then next year, it'll be a spiritual thing, but it'll bring more depth to it. And then the following year, it'll do the same thing. So, like, the same scripture will it'd be so depth to it. It'd be so much into it, that you get nuanced understandings to it. You kind of get what I mean?
Totally. And I think the one lovely thing about these mysteries is they get deeper as you contemplate them, so that there's more nuance, as you say, every year. Every time you go ahead and look at it, there's more to look at the next time you look at it.
Yeah, because you become more aware of it.
Kind of like the internal temper. Like what we all are becomes more and more.
Yeah. And beliefs have a lot to do with it. If you believe you are the temple of God, then that's what you're going to be.
Definitely.
Because you're going to take all the necessary steps to make it to that point. If that's what you truly want to be. And I think that's where we left in this world. That's where we're lacking. We're lacking depth within ourselves. Truly what we truly want to do with our lives. Because we don't do what we truly want to do with our lives. We do what we're told.
Definitely.
So I'm going to leave that off at that note. For people that don't know what I mean, you can always ask Sid. Sid will be more than happy to let you know.
That's true. And this is the one thing that, this invitation extends. It's an open invitation to people to come and join us and discuss things, either online or in person. And it is always building more of a community. And thank you, Brother Anthony, for inspiring this whole discussion, months ago when we decided to do this. Your insight has been brilliant, and I really appreciate you.
Well, I have to find some way to channel it out. People around me don't accept me, so they think because I'm a spiritualist that I'm some type of witch, or I go around putting hexes on people, or some fucking crazy, pardon my language, people,
sure.
Some crazy stuff be happening out here in the sticks, man. I don't know. I just think it's because I have a nuanced way of thinking about things, and people are still stuck in their old ways. And the old ways are starting to crumble, and you can see it already in the world.
I've seen that too in my own life. You know, here in the city, you still bump into, resistance of people, and, people who are, negative people, and they just want to fill your head full of sadness and try to fight each other. But really, the more you stick with what, you and I are talking about, the more light we have, the easier it is to survive that shit. Bless you.
Like you said shit. Oh, man. But, yeah. I was gonna add something too, but we can go on to the next one.
Sure. You know what? We can always talk more about it. But I'm just gonna get through these 10 sayings. So saying 72. A person said to him, "Tell my brothers to divide my father's possessions with me." He said to the person, "Mister, who made me a divider?" He turned to his disciples and said to them, "I'm not a divider, am I?"
This is where Gnosticism had the Christian church before. They split on this. This is why they couldn't accept it, because of what it says. Go ahead, Sid. You got any thoughts?
I would say that obviously you could say that Jesus is a unity force between, God and goddess, between pagan and Jewish traditions, between all kinds of things. But he's also one that divides because we are dividing. It's like he asked them, am I a divider? He asks other people's opinions by nature. He gets everyone involved, which means they all have different opinions, which means it divides. Even though the idea of that is to find unity. It's that duality that we've been talking about throughout this whole discussion.
Yeah.
That is both unity and division in the same thought,
It's like, okay, I'm looking right at the scripture. So
sure.
Okay. That's kind of like, okay, like what do the mainstream Christian churches do? This is just my point. I'm not trying to get off scripture, but they have so many different forms of Christian religion that they actually divide themselves among themselves.
Yes.
That was just my point from the jump street. Like, they divide themselves among themselves when it's supposed to be unity. We're all preaching the same shit. Pardon my language.
No, that's right.
Gnostics, that's one thing. There's a common straw in all the Gnostics religions or spirituality. You know what I mean? There's a common draw. They had the same common draw, but if you look in the Middle East, you wouldn't see it. All you see is separation unless we're being fed fake news.
Yes.
But yeah, it's Jesus in a certain sense divide, but he doesn't. You kind of get what I mean?
Well, it's almost like
he doesn't divide material things. I look at it as he's not dividing us. We're taking the initiative to become like him.
Well, it's kind of the kind of like an expanding, cell. It expands and contracts, kind of like the universe expands and contracts. We divide. As he asked questions and had their opinions would come up. That would be division. But in order for us to eventually have unity, we need to go through that division part. We need to work through it. We can't just have it all on paper and be done with it. We have to work through all these things.
Yes. Yes, and that also, let me point this out to most people, that also goes to, for most people can't accept what they have done in their life. And that's part of that. Like, you have to accept your shadow,
Yes.
the fucked up things and the things that you've done in life, and take responsibility for them.
Right.
All right? And as you take responsibility for them, that's when you start to make the shift of becoming conscious, because now you understand, yeah, I did some fucked up shit, but, you know, I have to accept it because I did it. Like, I could no longer, and that's a psychological thing too, as well. You know?
Definitely.
Right? They fuck with your head, bro. Like, the system is set up in a certain sense where if you don't have money, you're just a piece of shit. Like, you can't live life, and you're always depressed, and all these other things. When you're depressed, you divide yourself from everybody.
Yes, yes.
You don't even leave your house.
Right, right. Well,
so, like, that's what I'm saying. Nuanced look. So you can look at it in esoteric, you can look at it literal, or you can look at it
psychological,
in a human perspective.
Yeah. There's so many ways to get into it deeper and deeper. Let me go on to the next saying. I'm going to read 3 of them at once. 73, Jesus said, "The crop is huge, but the workers are few. So beg the harvest boss to dispatch workers to the fields." Saying 74, he said, "Lord, there are many around on the drinking trough, but there is nothing in the well." And 75, Jesus said, "There are many standing at the door, but those who are alone will enter the bridal suite." Bridal suite.
Bridal chamber.
Yes.
It's supposed to be chamber, but yeah, I get what you mean. Like, those are that, everybody be standing outside the bridal chamber, well, the ones who initiated themselves go into the bridal chamber.
Right.
That's kind of like, I don't know if you ever read the Gospel of, like, John, where it talks about how the churches are misleading the people, and the people think that they're following God, and instead what the church is doing is they're bringing them in and they're sacrificing them in a spiritual sense. You know what I mean? They're caging them in and boxing them in and keeping them there and sacrificing them. Not in a literal sense, but in a spiritual and mental sense, because if you think about it mentally, they're just chained up in a fucking box.
Yes. Well, you know, the Gospel of Judas, which was only available to us from the late 70s when it was discovered again after thousands of years, talks about that too. Judas has a vision of being persecuted by the other disciples, and he also has a vision of like a big temple church kind of place. And Jesus said, "Look at all these kind of people that come into this church or this temple. And there's people who, you know, abstain. There's people who have sex this way and that way. There's people who do all kinds of things. But what it is all these divided people who use that division that they have not worked out, and they kind of lash out at the congregation and get them all screwed up too." And Jesus was very clear that this is going to be the, you know, that his story, his mission is going to be broken up by the future followers and the future, you know, self-styled bishops and popes and patriarchs and higher-ups, and they are going to sacrifice people the way you're describing. You know, that's what's going to happen, and that's what's happened, you know.
Yeah, it's been going on like this for a long time.
One of the reasons
thousands of years.
One of the reasons that I really like, you know, our circles in our church is that we, you know, really are trying to bring it back together, you know, based on everyone's opinion being important. So it sounds like we're all divided, but actually we unify based on our freedom to come together voluntarily, rather than somebody telling somebody you have to believe this or that with, you know, no exploration. You know, the Dalai Lama, I saw something the Dalai Lama said, you know, it was his birthday last week. He said that, you know, Buddha himself said, you should definitely test out everything I say and experiment, and don't just take what I say. You know, make it real to you.
Jesus said the same thing.
Jesus
don't
says
just
the same
be
thing.
like me, but go farther beyond the consciousness I am, basically. Go past who I am. This is just a stepping stone to who you are.
Right. We're all supposed to go further than Jesus, further than God has been able to go, further than Mother Mary's been able to go. We can't just settle and be a second or third rate Jesus. We have to be a first rate ourselves. Help Jesus to get further.
Actually, it's kind of funny you say that. That last, what you just said, say that again?
Well, just that we have to go beyond. We can't be a third rate Jesus. We have to be a first rate ourselves, and then help Jesus and and God and Mary get beyond.
It says something. The Marys. That's what church it is.
Yeah.
It says something in Pistis Sophia, the text. I forgot which quote it was. I'll get the section for you. It says the chapter and the section and everything.
Sure.
Where Jesus says that they inherited, the two Marys, his mother and Mary Magdalene and himself. Not only the Marys inherited the same consciousness he had, but they surpassed him.
Lovely, lovely. Why don't we talk about that sometime? Maybe next week we can talk about the Pistis Sophia, and you can bring that up in our discussion. Because we seem to be doing a thing where every other week we're doing the Gospel of Thomas and figuring it out and furthering it. And then in between, we give discussions that are just kind of off topic.
Yeah, because that's all that's all gnosis for us. That's like to know. That's what gnosis is, to know, to use your self-knowledge, the knowledge that God given them of the universe. That's what the Spirit is. That's what the Spirit represents, to know, to have knowledge, to have wisdom.
And the knowledge is its own reward. And, it's not knowledge to accomplish something. It's knowledge that helps you know, and that accomplishes so much. It's not like we're trying for a goal-oriented thing. We're actually just trying to find the freedom of knowledge and light.
Yep.
I'll say...
almost like Luciferian. But it's not Luciferian, really.
And that's the deeper knowledge of the book of Revelation, where, the morning star being a symbol of both Lucifer and Christ. That's what we're talking about. You can use the same power for good or bad. You can use the same power to help people or to, be exploitive. Yeah, to be destroyed.
Oh, no, you know what the Egyptians say? Ra, the sun, right?
Yes.
The sun. The sun could nurture life or burn it up.
Yes. Saying 76. Jesus said the Father's kingdom is like a merchant who had a supply of merchandise and found a pearl. That merchant was prudent. He sold the merchandise and bought the single pearl for himself. So also with you, seek his treasure that is unfailing, that is enduring, where no moth comes to eat and no worm destroys.
That's when you find that hidden light inside you, or Sophia. Like Solomon said, Sophia is more greater than having gold,
right.
More than the riches of this world. I'd rather have Sophia.
Sophia wisdom.
Because if you have Sophia, all those riches and everything comes right along with a certain responsibility. Because you cannot have power and not have responsibility. You are responsible to use that power as you please, but in a manner whether it is without judgment. I was going to say right or wrong, but you can't say right or wrong. It's got to be without judgment.
Right. So it's not even right or wrong.
They teach you to pray, not when I need this, but yeah, you manifest, but you manifest without judgment. You cannot have judgment over the things that you are creating.
Definitely. It has to live on its own.
And that's the same thing with people. You can't listen to their problems and you can't have judgment. Everybody's judgmental. That's another form of dividing.
Which is really the deepest part of Christianity. You can say all kinds of things about Christianity and what it has that a lot of the other faiths, need to work to understand. But the thing of Christianity is really a radical attempt to not judge, and therefore to be free, and therefore to free that which you see. So if you don't judge even the future, even the next 5 minutes, yeah, you can walk around and not know what your plan is, but then you'll know that you trust that God will give you what you need at the time, and not to, again, weight it down with the weight of judgment and therefore distort it.
Dogmatic, yeah.
Saying 77, Jesus said, I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there.
In this sense, I say I don't know if you really seen or heard of Barbelo.
You were speaking about this. Barbelo, keep going, talk about it.
Barbelo is the first emulation of everything. If you carry the light of Barbelo, you carry the light of God.
Right.
You have to spark that light. And even in a lot of the ancient mystical traditions, you see this pop up. The first emulation and then the sun.
Wow.
It comes the original being. I don't like calling him because he's above. You can't even call him. To me, you can't even call him God because he's beyond a God. His offspring you can call gods, and I think that's where we get things mixed up. I think that we just think that his offsprings are the original gods, and we don't pay homage to each God.
Well, I want to. I
know that kind of spun off.
No. I want to honor what you say by one of the readings we had last week. I'm gonna play this. It's the Holy Quran, and then I'll translate it, and it is exactly what you're saying from the Barbelo. This is the Holy Quran, Surah 39, verse 6.
خلقكم من نفس واحدة ثم جعل منها زوجها وأنزل لكم من الأنعام 8 أزواج يخلقكم في بطون أمهاتكم خلقا من بعد خلق في ظلمات 3 ذلكم الله ربكم له الملك لا إله إلا هو فأنا تصرفون.
And that can be translated, the Surah Al-Zumar, as He created you all from a single soul. Then from it He made its mate. He produced for you 4 pairs of cattle. He creates you in the wombs of your mothers in stages, one development after another, in 3 layers of darkness. That is Allah, your Lord. All authority belongs to Him. There is no God worthy of worship except Him. How can you then be turned away? And the point I wanted to bring up specifically was He created you all from a single soul, which is exactly what you're talking about, which I thought, I just wanted to add that. Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
No, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying. Like, one on top, then they made the second emulation, but the thing is Barbados, they talk about her, and it's not just a her, it's a him too. She represents masculine through the feminine. You gotta get what I mean?
Definitely.
So through her nurturing of life, she teaches you how to stand as an iron fist to protect life.
Lovely.
So our masculine people get things twisted. Masculine isn't about rah, let's fight. Masculine's about standing up like a piece of iron, not moving, not just standing for what you stand for.
Right.
That's masculine.
And the feminine is the creative and the wisdom and all that the masculine protects, and then the feminine gives life to. So it goes back and forth. really the call to androgyny is, it really is in the Gnosticism and in the Christianity and other forms of mysticism. If you're stuck on one or another part of the spectrum, or one or another part of the possibilities, then you cheat yourself and you don't get all the full reality of what Christ is talking about.
And that's what he's talking about. It's going in and receiving her light, or the light of Barbados, which then you become the third, the divine child.
Right. Like that, it becomes a third thing beyond the masculine and feminine into the further thing.
Which is Christ in the Gnostic tree.
Right.
Because he's told to be the son of the living God.
Well, this is why I think that the Nicene Christians who want to attack trans stuff, intersex stuff, is really missing out and trying to cut off your head to spite your head. You really can't try to limit the ability of people to be explore their full potential. And really, nobody should be threatened by anybody else's exploration, because we're all beautiful, whether we're cis, whether we're trans, whether we're intersex. We're all, in whatever spirituality you find yourself loyal to, as long as it's full, as you said last week, the idea of fullness, the idea of wholeness, not the idea of right or wrong, but the idea of being complete in yourself.
And that's where it comes. Do not judge.
Do not judge.
Do not
right.
Manifest without judgment. Do not judge. That's a principle. Do not judge other people, period.
That's right.
Because you do not know the spiritual path that they are walking.
That's right.
Maybe that's for them. Maybe they're here to experience that.
Right. And that.
Well, I think it was at one point that all this literature was one, and there was a huge discussion and a huge break in it where one went one way and one went the other way. And they've been at religion and spirituality, and religion's been attacking spirituality for centuries.
Right, and the idea of fusing the two into a thought is, again, one of the reasons we did this church years ago and keep doing it, is to try to bring all that together and bring both and more than two sides to the discussion.
And the literature is here to shape our thoughts.
Yes.
So when you come to a certain sense and you start putting your thoughts in a box, that's all you're going to see. So what you got to do is you got to break out of that box, and that's what they mean by spiritual enlightenment, is when you break out of that box and you start seeing things differently because your mind starts to expand. It keeps going for miles, and that's where a lot of it comes by. We're shaped. Our thoughts are shaped by the reality that is created for us, instead of us creating our own reality. I should say manifestation.
Well, it's interesting because I think. Oh, go ahead.
Because he said, "Knock and you shall see." Find and you'd be amazed.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of contemporary Christianity and other religions too that are too traditional. In other words, traditional of the last hundreds of years, not the all the way back tradition where it was mysticism. But the idea of keeping you in a box and keeping you to worship the box instead of who you are, or worship God, instead of even caring about God and the mysteries of that, you are exhorted to don't rock the boat. Just be like everyone else. Be like your parents. Be like your grandparents.
What's happening is people are imposing their will on other people through religious scripture.
Yes.
That is not okay.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a free will.
And to sin against that is to sin against the spirit. To really force someone to do something they're not supposed to or want to do is, in fact, the unforgivable sin. because you're basically destroying God's life in somebody else because it doesn't fit into what you think it has to be. You're trying to tell them and God what to be in the name of what? Some little doctrine that you believe in? No, that's exactly the wrong idea.
And that's one of the reasons why I decided to start doing this, because that's completely what you don't want to have. And that's what's happening. You know, everybody pointing the finger at each other and not fucking saying, hey, look, I did this, you did that, I did this. Well, like for instance, Israel and Palestine. Nobody wants to talk about the massive genocide in 1948 when the Israelis pulled out the Palestinians from their homes, or some Palestinians came home and their doors were locked, and Israelites just took over their land.
Right.
And named it Israel.
Right.
Nobody talks about that.
And right. And, you know,
and that's like a pot building up over there.
Well, and you
ever
know,
since then, they've been fighting and going back and forth ever since then.
And you know, I've often said that, you know, that a lot of what the Gentile power elite, you know, the people like the British royal family and the other people that decided this, they were funding the Hitler movement at the same time as they were preparing for Palestine to be colonized by European people, because they wanted to kill Jewish people and Muslim people, and they wanted to watch them kill each other, and they're still kind of watching
and opposed as Jews.
Right. That they're
opposed as, because if you break down the word, Israel is an African word.
Right. You had said this before. It was Isis, Ra, and El.
And El, the funny thing about El is at the end of Angel.
Right.
Raphael.
Samael.
Oh, it's
Michael. Right.
All of them. So, like, it's an African word.
Right.
You might fool other people, but you ain't fooling me.
No, I hear you. Let me read the last three sayings, and then we can continue the discussion until we're done. Let me just do this right now. The last three, because we're right here. Saying 78. Jesus said, "Why have you come out to the countryside to see a reed shaken by the wind, and to see a person dressed in soft clothes like your rulers and your powerful ones? They are dressed in soft clothes, and they cannot understand truth." Saying 79, a woman in the crowd said to him, "Lucky are the womb that bore you and the breast that fed you." He said to her, "Lucky are those who have heard the word of the Father and have truly kept it. For there will be days when you will say, 'Lucky are the womb that has not conceived and the breasts that have not given milk.'" And then saying 80, Jesus said, "Whoever has come to know the world has discovered the body. And whoever has discovered the body, of that one the world is not worthy."
Well, I'm looking at something I just kind of lost myself for a second here.
Oh, it's okay. I think
And the light over. We just said that. And Jesus said it like, I think it was 79. A woman. No.
79, and then if you look at 80.
The shaking in the wind. And
Yeah, it's 78, 79, and 80.
okay. 78, like, it talks about how they thought Jesus would be this guy in robes and this great king-looking type person.
Right.
In all the reality, Jesus was a king, and spiritually he was a king. Doesn't mean that you have to dress in great riches in order to be rich.
Right.
It's the difference between being physical rich and spiritual rich. I just want to make that point because a lot of people will be like, "Ooh, what are you talking about?" It's just, he's talking about the person they're seeking is a spiritual king. But they think he's going to be robed like a king.
Right.
A spiritual king is somebody, you might go to his house and he might have nothing. And you might feel bad for him, but he don't feel bad for something. That's exactly the way he likes to live.
Right.
Maybe he might not want to live with no electricity. Maybe he likes light mechanic. Maybe he likes living in the Stone Age, but that's just the way he lives. Doesn't make it right or wrong, but he has a lot to teach you.
Right.
So, and that's somebody of knowledge, to have great knowledge within themselves, is basically what a spiritual king is, or a spiritual master.
Well, isn't it interesting
Probably
that...
the proper word for it.
Isn't it interesting that a lot of people who look to the end times and look to the second coming of Jesus, they picture him coming in a robe full of light, they picture him coming and cracking the world in the sky in half. But in reality, he is all of us simply being ourselves. And if we could get where he's at, or beyond where he's at, as you said earlier, then the world would receive the second coming. We'd all be part of that second coming. It would be not just one guy coming back, but all of us finding ourselves.
Oh, and not to throw this one off, but you ever heard of the saying, the Great Virgin Spirit?
Go ahead.
You ever heard that saying, Sid?
I'm not sure.
The Great Virgin Spirit would be Barbados. Would basically be the first spirit.
I see.
That's the first emulation. I just wanted to quickly...
Interesting. So that's kind of the basis of some of the ideas of Mary being a virgin.
Yeah.
It comes from that Barbados concept.
Mm-hmm. The virgin wasn't... if you reverse it from Greek, they got that virgin from Greek. The word virgin in Hebrew means pure.
Yes.
Not that you never had sex, pure spiritually. That's what the concept pretty much meant. But everybody thinks, nobody never had any sex, it's pure spiritually. That's not necessarily true either.
No. It's
Having
kind of...
a pure spirit is just somebody being a spiritual master.
Right.
That's what that means. That's for a human.
And I think
will have to actually... Go ahead.
No, she'll have to ask you. Go ahead.
Just like God enters through you, through your heart, and just flows outside of you. Just flows, makes everybody happy. And you see the whole system start to be good from you.
I agree.
Because I see it all the time. People get angry at you for no reason. Just because you're in a good mood and their crap don't fucking faze you. You're just like, whatever. I'm going to go work in my corner. Y'all just sickening with your vibrations. You guys just need to get away from me. Because you literally hate me because I'm happy. I'm experiencing heaven in my life.
Right.
Because heaven is an experience, not a place.
Right. Absolutely. That's something that people need to see and need to really understand. If you are in the eternity of what we call happiness or peace, then, obviously in the future you could be there too, and the idea of a heaven. But you're in heaven on earth right now, and that's what Jesus came to show us. That's the idea that we are, given the ability to see if we just take seriously these sayings and these and what it brings up in our own minds and our own hearts.
That's pretty much what a lot of the sayings are. A lot of the Gnostic sayings, they speak through my heart. They speak my heart speaks to me when I read them and when I look at them. Where in a conventional sense, when I grab a Bible, I don't feel that.
No.
Because a lot of the words been filtered and they throw you off because they say, well, we went from Hebrew to Greek to Latin to whatever, then to English. You know what I mean?
German, yeah.
So by the time you get it out of Hebrew, the text from Hebrew to Greek could be completely different from what the Hebrew says. And in a lot of cases, that's what I see. Or they get messed up from the Greek to the Latin. Because Hebrew had less expressions than Greek.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was by something like 2,000 more expressions or something like that. So it went from Hebrew to Greek, and then it went from Greek to all these different languages.
Yes, yes.
But when you read it in the Greek, you read it as the Olympians and the Titans type of point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Where, say, Jesus will be Prometheus or Lucifer will be Prometheus because he stole the eternal light from Olympius and came down and brought it to man, and he got punished for it by Zeus.
Right.
Or the war between the Olympians and the I always forget
The Titans.
The Titans. You see that in the tales of Sumer.
You know, also interesting.
Enki and Enlil. Constant dispute between, and then you have Anu, and then you have the ones that are original that are higher than Anu.
Well, you know, it's interesting too. Brother John, some months ago, read the Velaspa, which is like kind of like the Gita to the Mahabharata is the Velaspa to the Elder Eddas and the of the Viking scripture, and it really talks about the Vanir and the Aesir and how they're fighting back and forth. So that's another culture talking about that same concept between the division between the older and the younger forces.
And then there's one force above them all.
Yes.
So we keep getting this theme. This theme keeps coming up in every culture. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You have, in the Bible, you have demons and angels, but there's one that created them both.
And that is, the idea of eventually, in the beginning of this discussion, talk about, am I a divider? Well, division and unity, the interplay between them is the whole of life. So you can't just divide on one and say only division or only on unity. It really is the entire experience, the drama and the dream of living, which involves different parts of the story.
The soul and the spirit.
Definitely. Well,
so this dualistic just continues to pop up all over the place.
And I think that, as we come to an end of this episode, I just want to continue to let people know that we're going to keep exploring this concept, not just in the discussion of the Gospel of Thomas, but everything we talk about, and other people in the church are talking about it too. The idea that to be hung up on one judgment of it has to be this way or it has to be that way. That's kind of what God was doing in the beginning of the Bible, and he had to find out that his ideas were not able to be, when you actually put it in the practicality of the woman universe, that's going to rebel against the idea of some plan, because the naturals of the snake in the garden, the natural of the Kundalini spirit, the natural of the Sophia wisdom, the natural of woman-centered thought, which is the universe's thought, is going to kind of buck up against the best laid plans of mice and men and gods. It's not that you shouldn't have a plan or that it's wrong to have that, because that's a part of it too. That's a phase of it too. But the eventual concept is we have to be comfortable in all aspects of existence and be able to explore with joy the entirety of life, death, and rebirth.
That's I was looking the other day, martial arts, all about not having to fight. But if you have to fight, you're a destroyer. You're a war machine.
Right.
But you only use it if you have no other choice. That's what I mean by responsibility, power. Knowledge doesn't come without responsibility. Responsibility of using it without judgment, using it in the proper manner of what it needs to be used by. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I love this, Anthony. Brother Anthony, thank you for joining me on this, and thank you for having explored this. I think we should probably put it off. We've been doing about 45 minutes now, And I'm going to send this off to people later on so that they can see what we've explored and hopefully encourages them to explore for themselves. Is there anything?
Yes, I always say, man, just don't take my word for it. Look it up.
That's right, brother.
The information's out there.
The information.
I can help guide, but the information's out there.
And it's important for everybody not to rely on anyone else. Rely on us, rely on each other. Find the God inside yourself. Find that spirit that even Socrates talked about. That inner truth that you find and allow to explore throughout the rest of your life. That's what the joy of doing this kind of work is. The joy of doing this kind of play also in this just exciting dream that we're in. Is there anything else you want to say, Brother Anthony, before we go?
No, have a lovely night or a lovely day, and peace be with you, people.
Peace be with you too, Anthony. Thank you so much, and peace be with everybody. Thanks a lot for everything, for tuning in, and we'll have something for you next week.